May the Holy Spirit of God work through my words and work in each heart here today, that we may experience something of the peace of Christ and hold one another in the midst of hardship. Amen. Please be seated. I have a companion who is with me all the time. She is in the sound I exhale when singing at a funeral. He flows through the tears that come to my eyes when I watch a video of a brutal killing by police officers. My companion contracts my heart ever so slightly when I look at photographs of my friends in high school and I see my friend Gino, who died of AIDS just a few years after the photo was taken. My companion sometimes wants my attention so much that I need to step away from my plans for the day and just go for a walk to make space to attend to them. They silently cry and lament as I turn the page after reading about yet another unfathomable decision that takes rights or care away from those who are most vulnerable. My companion stirred me awake in the middle of the night, quite often during the hardest months of the pandemic, when I missed you all so much and longed to be with you in person. And when I'm not careful, my companion shows up as anger or cynicism. My companion, of course, is grief. I'm still learning to see this companion as something other than a nuisance or a problem to be solved. I grew up in a family that was determined not to mourn. Mourning was for the weak. Pull yourself together was sort of our adage. Chin up, old boy. Turn that frown upside down. My parents weren't uncaring, and they weren't unfeeling. They were just a product of their culture and their time. White, Protestant, Midwestern, reticent to let one's feelings of any kind take center stage. I'm not alone in having to work hard to make space for grief in my life. American culture has deeply baked in narratives that deny that death is even real. And part of that is because denying death helps to perpetuate injustice. It keeps us from acting on the truth of our own grief for what we see around us. Our culture presses us to avoid mourning. After all, mourning doesn't sell. Mourning slows down the workforce. Mourning isn't fun. In 2012, as you may know, when London hosted the Olympics in the summer, there was part of the opening ceremony that people everywhere in the world except the United States got to see. And it featured a sort of memorial wall with tributes to members of families of the people who were there in that stadium who had passed away recently. And it was meant to be a memorial to those who had been killed by terrorism in London not so long ago. But NBC decided that people in America didn't need to see that. And instead, they replaced it with an interview of Michael Phelps by Ryan Seacrest. We're not socialized to acknowledge our companion grief. But the truth is, we all mourn. We all mourn. It's the natural and sacred result of love, without which life would not even exist. We are created out of God's unbounded love, created in order to love and to connect and to create together. When someone we love leaves us, or when a dream dies, or when we experience the ambiguous loss of mental illness or of a pandemic lockdown, We're built to mourn. It's natural. The church helpfully has rituals for specific times of mourning, funeral liturgies that make space for our grief, Good Friday, when we cry, "My God, why have you forsaken me?" We have prayers for the death of children, for infertility, prayers for times of crisis, and now prayers that acknowledge climate change. And these are all really helpful, and they're really great. But I think sometimes in our church, we're prone to misread our tradition by confining our mourning to these specially authorized moments. In fact, mourning is with us at Christmas, at Easter, at Pentecost. And that's okay. In fact, it's more than okay. It's more than okay. In his foundational teaching at the very start of his public ministry, one of the first things that Jesus declares, which is in today's gospel, is, "Blessed are those who mourn." Blessed are those who mourn. That's amazing. Can you imagine a politician or even someone running for bishop or any big job to start their speech, "Blessed are those who mourn"? It wouldn't get you very far these days, right? But here's Jesus, standing on the mountain, acknowledging the companion that we all travel with, going to the hardest corner of the landscape of our interior life, God incarnate, speaking first to our pain. The translation that you have before you in your bulletin uses the word blessed or blessed. And my guess is that that's the translation that most of us are most familiar with, right? Or in the Spanish, dichosos, dichosos, right? And that's a good translation. I've also seen happy. Happy are those who are poor in spirit. And I've also seen congratulations in the Message. Well, Mark Davis, who's a biblical scholar who helps me every time I sort out what to say in my sermons, Mark Davis says that there's another translation for this word that he thinks gets at what Jesus is really doing here. And so rather than blessed, he invites us to translate it as honored. Honored are those who mourn. Whew, how does that feel? Mark Davis thinks that what Jesus is doing in the Beatitudes is he's deconstructing this whole honor and shame system that was part of the culture of that time. He's telling us that honor is not about following the rules or being part of a certain religious class or being somebody who gives a lot of money to a religious institution or being of the right gender or sexuality. Honor is mourning, being vulnerable, being honest and human and in tears. And that's really what all of those Beatitudes speak to in their own way. So these pronouncements that are today's gospel offer us a radical discourse, a way of describing the pursuit of happiness, which is a very American term, describing that pursuit as something other than a pursuit of comfort. The good life involves mourning and honoring one another's mourning. If we are to follow Jesus, who honored those who grieve, then what will that look like? How do we participate in comforting those who mourn? Well, another biblical scholar, Amy Jill Levine, who you may have heard of, she's a Jewish scholar whose scholarship focuses on the New Testament, on Jesus. She says that we allow others to mourn not by offering platitudes, but by offering memory and story and presence. Memory and story and presence. The comfort that comes from having your grief acknowledged and honored and given space and welcomed in like a guest, given a seat at the table and a cup of tea. Tell me about your grandfather. Tell me what you thought your marriage would be like. Yes, the world is a mess. Let's sit down and be sad about it together for a little while. Memory, story, and presence. Jesus offers that so often in his journey. He's forever eating in people's homes. He stands with Mary and Martha at the grave of Lazarus. He hears the poor and the widow. He honors the blind man's experience. And so should we. I'm still learning to do this. I'm still on the journey towards being able to hold others' grief as God would call me to do and acknowledge my own grieving. I'm deeply, deeply indebted to someone who's very close to me, who in the last few years has gone through some training that's been shared with me that's helped me to see the ways in which rushing past someone's grief too quickly invalidates their feelings, makes them feel like they haven't been heard. And that's helped me to be a bit slower, more present, more available, to just sit in the grief with somebody. I've also been mentored in this by the Black Seed writers. And I thank those of you who are Black Seed writers who are so good at sharing with us your pain, your grief, and offering that up in ways that other people can connect to, or that allows a whole kind of experience that maybe isn't their experience to be seen and brought to light in the world. So thank you for that. To honor those who mourn means we have to reject the myth of closure. Mourning is messy, and it's different for everyone, and it doesn't have a timeline. Seeing it saps our energy, and trying to find closure can sap our energy. It keeps us from seeing other things that might help us in our emotional growth. Grief doesn't happen in stages, and it comes and goes, and it shows up in really weird ways. It's with us in waves and at levels, and we need to just be gentle with ourselves in the midst of that. We grieve because we're really alive. We know that people matter. The earth matters, beauty matters, our lives matter. And so our grief is part of what ultimately is the grace of being itself, and it is not to be ignored. As Frederick Buechner said, listen to your life, your whole life. See it for the fathomless mystery that it is, in the boredom and the pain of it, no less than the excitement and the gladness. Touch and taste and smell your whole holy self and all that is hidden in your heart, because in the last analysis, all moments are key moments, and life itself is a grace. This is a practice of faithfulness to our God in the face of the wisdom of this age, which Paul wrote about in the second reading this morning. We proclaim Christ crucified, as Paul reminded us. And that means we proclaim a God who suffered and died and is present to those hard experiences that we have, present in our grief. God's weakness is stronger than human strength. And so we seek the peace of Christ even as we grieve. We seek the love of God and the comfort of God even as we grieve. It's a both and. It's a both and. So now I want to invite us to an experience that I hope will show forth something of our call to hold one another through mourning and to offer that mourning to God and invite God to hold it with us. In a way, that's what we do every week at the altar. But today, what I want to invite you to do, if you want to, is as we sing the hymn of the day, if you're so moved, to come forward and take a strip of fabric and use one of the Sharpies there to just write on it something that is a piece of grief that you hold. It might be the name of a person. It might be a place that's changed quite a bit and it makes you sad. It might be climate change. It might be the tremendous losses that have filled the news this week. So many killings, so much violence, and in whatever way you want to just write a word or two. And we're gonna weave those together. We're gonna connect them to one another. And we're gonna leave it on the altar and pray with it as we offer our Eucharist today. Our weakness is our strength. The things that the world tells us to hide away are things that God calls us to bring to light and to hold with one another. Honored are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Amen.